power. Okay, the second main component art within the art of change. We just talked about the art of self-control. What's the second art? It's what I call the art of positive action. Like the previous art, it has three simple requirements. Number one, govern your attitudes. Number two, look for opportunities. Number three, take the initiative. Now, look at this for a second. This is pretty interesting. Govern your attitudes. That has to do with what's inside you. Look for opportunities. That has to do with what's outside you. Take the initiative. That connects the inner with the outer. I mean, this is pretty interesting. Govern your attitudes. In the ancient world, Cicero once said, in this life, attitude is almost everything. Attitude is such a powerful force in human life. And you know what? That's why Socrates wanted us to examine our attitudes. Our attitudes tend to be like the glasses we wear. I mean, we never look at them. We look through them. We only look at them if something's wrong. Oh, wait a minute. What's that on my? And we take them off. Well, if you wait to examine your attitudes when you know something is wrong, often it's too late. Damage has already been done. That's why Socrates said, ask yourself, what kind of attitude am I using to approach the situation? And attitudes are kind of a coming together of emotions and expectations and your personal tonality. Extremely important. Govern your attitudes. Number two, look for opportunities. What happens when change, especially major change, comes rolling across the prairie? Well, when change comes into your life, what do a lot of people do? A lot of people, they hunker down. They go into the storm shelter, psychologically speaking. They duck and cover. They narrow their focus. They stick to the knitting, to what they do know, and maybe hope the storm will pass. The great philosophers have said, you know what? That's the opposite of what you should do during a time of change. During a change always churns up opportunity. That's a universal in human life. Change always churns up opportunity. You need to be broadening the scope of your concern and interests and observations. You need to be not narrowing but broadening out. Turn that radar on 360. Look at everything going on. There's a story that philosophers of science like to tell. They say it's late at night. There's a man on his hands and knees around a lamppost. And he's going through the grass, and a policeman comes up and he says, excuse me, what are you doing? The man says, I'm looking for my watch. I lost my watch. And so the policeman said, okay, I'll help. And so he gets down on his hands and knees, and he starts doing it systematically. He does a grid search of the area around the lamppost, comes up with nothing. He says, are you sure you lost it here? And the guy says, oh no, the light is just much better here. Which shows you the sense of humor philosophers of science have, number one, but it also shows you a human tendency. People look where the light is good, whether that's the place to be looking or not. The great thinker said, you know what? Go out there into the shade a little bit. Go to where some interesting things might be found. Don't just stay under the lamppost like everybody else tends to do. You know, look for opportunities. Be opportunistic in the best possible sense. And number three, take the initiative. You know the old saying, have you ever heard the old saying, there are three kinds of people in the world? Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who go around saying, what happened? Be in the first category, the great thinkers say. Be in the first category. Take the initiative. Demosthenes in the ancient world was once asked, what's the secret to your rhetorical success? He was the greatest speaker in the ancient world. And his answer, anticipating what real estate people were to do later, much later, he said, action, action, action. If you ask me, and I've studied successful people throughout history for about 20 years now, really intensely, and if you ask me to boil it down to one quality, and I always hate to do that because I actually think there's 7 qualities of success, and we're going to talk about those in just a minute, but if you ask me to boil it down to one, I would have to say action, an action orientation. People who are willing to take the initiative, who don't just sit back analyzing something to death, but who step out and do. Because you know what? Aristotle said, the best form of learning is learning by doing. You can't just understand the world in your easy chair. You've got to get out there and be doing, taking the initiative, making things